If we look at it, the way that the public data is accessed right now is structurally very similar to everyone else, honestly. And now the opportunity really lies within private data. How do we make AI tools work for our own private data in a way that is secure and ethical? How do we make the public data more ethical and regulated? That's a whole other field that's going to be coming down. So the way that I see the market right now is when it comes to public data, everything's out there. It's just a matter now of how do we use it responsibly and ethically.
Today's guest is Amy Osmond Cook, PhD, a marketing executive and communications expert with a proven track record leading high-growth companies from Series A through acquisition, including Simplest, Pathology Watch, and Onboard. She is the co-founder and chief marketing officer of Fullcast, the go-to-market cloud, and previously spent 15 years as founder and CEO of Stage Marketing. With a PhD in communication and 25 years teaching at top universities, Amy is also a respected voice in business and healthcare communities. Please welcome Amy Cook. All right, we've got another episode of iQ² with the amazing Amy Cook. Amy is a multi-CMO at multiple technology companies ranging from early stage to pretty large. So she's got a wealth of knowledge. The crazy thing too, she has her PhD and is also an adjunct professor at BYU Hawaii, which is even crazier. So I'm, no pressure talking to Amy here, but she's probably the smartest one in the room today. But without me ruining any type of introduction here, Amy, I would love to pass it off. Tell us a little bit more about yourself, your experience, and we'll take it from there.
Nabeel, that is much too kind of an introduction, but thank you so much. I really appreciate it. It's such a pleasure to be here. Right before we started recording, we both found out that we're both San Clemente people, San Clemente, California.
There we
Love it.
go.
So how fun is that? I've lived in San Clemente for the past 20 years with my husband and my 5 kids and my dog. And it's been a great life and had a lot of fun working on different businesses in the technology, healthcare, and real estate sectors. So I guess a little bit about my background is I grew up in Utah. I got my bachelor's and master's in English from BYU, took a little break off, had a couple of kids, went back to school, got my PhD. When I was going back to school, I thought to myself, what am I going to do? I was a single mom at the time with 2 kids. And so I thought, oh man, what am I going to do to support these kiddos in a way that's flexible? So that's why I went back to school originally. Then I got remarried, had a couple more kids, and I thought, all right, this is the life for me. Bunch of kids, my husband's in real estate, he's doing well, and I'm just going to live this life. And then Jeff, my husband, got a job at Lehman Brothers in 2008, 1 month before they went bankrupt. And then all of a sudden, I was like, oh, I got to go back to work. And so, because kids got to eat, right?
Yeah.
And so it was in the middle of the financial crisis. And, we were pretty stressed out because we had a whole bunch of little kids. And one day, Jeff said to me, he came into the room, I remember it so distinctly, and he said, hey, Amy, we got a $10,000 tax return. Let's have a contest. Let's split it in half, and let's see who can make the most money. And I said, you are on. And so I started a marketing business called Stage Marketing, and Jeff invested his in real estate. And so we have been growing our seed money ever since then, having a fun competition to see who could make the most. So
Yeah. Who's winning?
I'm
Today?
totally winning. I'm
There
totally
we go.
winning, except Jeff said that if you go by price per hour, he's winning because it's been a lot of work.
Okay, there we go. Your 20-hour work days aren't
Yeah,
leveling out the right way.
that's right. That's right. So, as part of this marketing agency that I started, I had the amazing opportunity to be a fractional CMO. And so, one of my clients was Ryan Westwood. In 2012, I was helping him write some columns for Forbes. And we had this conversation, and he said, I'm looking for a head of marketing. And I said, I would absolutely love to join you. I will leave my agency and let's just go for it. And so I just kind of left the agency running on ice. It was just like running independently by then. And I did my first CMO gig. It was a wonderful experience. We grew Simplest from 2017 Series A when I got there, all the way through acquisition in 2020. And then I had the
Wow.
opportunity to continue on as the marketing lead at Infosys, leading their Salesforce practice there. I loved that. Then I went back fully into the agency and had the opportunity to do two more CMO gigs from Series A through acquisition. The first one was Pathology Watch from 2020 to 2023. It was such a pleasure to work with Dan Lambert, who was the CEO there. And then with Ryan Wells from 2023 to 2024 for Onboard. And then I sold the agency, and Ryan said, "Hey, let's get the band back together and let's do Fullcast." And again, took me about a hot second to say, "Absolutely, let's go." So that's a
Yeah.
little bit about my background, and it's been just an absolute fire hose of learning. That's one thing that you get when you are a fractional C-suite executive is you get a lot of learning because you have to pick things up quickly and you have to make sure that you're really working hard to understand, because a lot of times people will hire you to be a fractional, but they actually expect you to be full-time. So
Yeah.
it's just kind of how
And
it
the
is.
and the when you're fractional also, I think a lot of the issues that you'll typically see is that they expect you to ramp quickly, but they expect you to see results yesterday, right? There's a reason why, the
Absolutely.
fractional position is extremely important, is because you bring in a breadth of expertise within the industry, but it's also like, hey, let's go crazy, let's move fast. And in my opinion, you're 100% right. The expectation is 100% full time when you've only told them a few hours. But it seems to me, Amy, that every door that opens is because you're doing something right and you're going 100% in every kind of gig that's going. And that's what I love hearing about your history is
Oh, thank
every
you.
opportunity led to another opportunity.
Yes,
With
that's
no with and I wouldn't say you didn't have a plan. It's like, hey, let's just do right by the immediate business and doors typically open.
Well, I think that that is such an awesome way to, you know, characterize what's required of a fractional. You have to go all in because they're trusting you to do your job, whether or not you're doing it part time or full time, and they're trusting you to have results that are going to grow the business. So quite often, I mean, if I'm being totally honest, I probably have worked between 80 and 100 hours a week forever, but I really
Yeah.
enjoy it. And so it doesn't really feel like work. So I feel very, very lucky to be able to do that. And so you're right, like doing right by the business is the primary thing. And if you can go all in and you can really focus on developing where you're at and learning everything you can and just being a sponge, it really is true. One opportunity does lead to another.
Yeah, you're the marathon runner running a marathon every week. So that's what I love hearing and seeing too.
Oh,
But
thank
you're
you.
currently at Fullcast right now. You're the CMO at Fullcast,
That's right.
driving this business forward. Tell me a little bit more about that. I know we talked about fractional, but how is Fullcast treating you, and how are you treating Fullcast?
Well, it is so much fun to go from fractional to full time. This is the
Yeah,
first time really that I haven't had the agency, at least on ice. I went all in with Simplus as well, but not even having any of those other things that can distract you, it's very liberating, and I absolutely love it. It's fun to be able to just dig in really deep. It's a very big opportunity, but there's also some really big challenges in the market right now. And so, if we can help pull together an otherwise pretty fragmented market, it's going to take more than our company. It's going to take more than a few companies. It's going to take a whole industry coming together to set new rules and boundaries and kind of rewrite the way the game is played in technology.
yeah. Let's talk about that fragmentation because we see it a lot, right? Being at LeadIQ, we're a sales tech platform that supports a lot of, revenue teams that are looking to kind of outbound and grab contact information. So data at its core. And what's crazy with the landscape that we're seeing is we're seeing that with the advancements of LLMs, the future of AI, it's easier to spin up a business to showcase advanced workflows. But it's hard to really kind of break through that chasm, right? Um, when it comes to scaling that business. When I see Fullcast, what's great is that you guys are advanced and deep experts in kind of the segment that you guys are currently in, predominantly RevOps. And correct me if I'm wrong in any of this stuff. But when you see that fragmentation happening, I almost think RevOps is a hot topic these days, right? So how are you dealing with the fragmentation? And number two is how are you dealing with this new wave of RevOps enthusiasts coming into kind of the technology workforce?
Well, thank you for asking. I do think those two questions are very interrelated because most of us who are very interested in revenue operations have experienced the gut wrenching pain of siloed departments. I mean, haven't you
Yeah.
been in an apartment, Nabeel, where you're like, ah, if only my KPIs were aligned with my other department leaders, and if only we could work together, and if only they wouldn't screw me over and say that my leads didn't mean anything, and if only they would pick up my leads, and if only that marketing would give better leads. And there's a lot of real emotional pain that comes from those siloed departments. And so my PhD is in organizational communication with a focus on organizational rhetoric, and as part of that, we went deep in our discipline into how organizations were formed, how they're currently constituted, and how they are, moving forward and changing and growing through the processes of communication. So what became very apparent to me in this new business is that the old way of bureaucracy, something that worked very well at the time during the Industrial Revolution, is no longer a viable business model. And that's why you're seeing so many revenue operations people coming together saying organically, this doesn't work anymore. There has to be a better
Mhm.
way for this. And it's really, really exciting for me to be able to be part of that revolution and to say, not only are we building a new industry, we're completely changing the rules of the game of how we do business. So I think that you're going to see a lot of cowboys and RevOps like us. You're going to see a
Yeah.
lot of people who want to change the rules. And there are going to be some winners and there are going to be some losers. And we want to be the winners.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this: you're positioned right before the wave, right? So you're going to catch
Mhm.
that wave as it hits the market. I'm excited to kind of see what you guys are going to be doing at Fullcast too, and we're at
Well,
LeadIQ. We're trying to get a little bit closer.
thank you. Well, I love what you're doing at LeadIQ, and we love being your customer. Your data is amazing. The way that you're making the workflow so easy for us, and your data is very high quality too, if I may say,
Yeah.
because we
thank,
use
thank you,
other
Amy.
data providers as well. So, in fact, it
Yeah.
was so funny too because one day somebody showed me their data platform, and I know that you guys do a lot of partnerships too. And somebody showed me their data, and then the way that they were showing the workflow and the way that they were positioning it. I said to them, "Are you guys just reskinning LeadIQ? Because we have LeadIQ." And they were like, "Yes, actually, we are because they're the best." And I said, "Amen. I love it."
Hey, I love hearing that. That's I didn't pay Amy to say any of this, so
No,
we do appreciate it. but
absolutely
uh
right.
but it's a beautiful thing, right? Because we don't know what we don't know either, right? I think the best thing and the core of what we have as a culture is stay humble, stay curious through
Mm-hmm.
everything that's happening, and I think the market is transitioning and changing so quickly.
Oh,
And that's why when we first met, it was initial conversations around like, hey, what do you do? What do we do? We've heard of each other, and
mm-hmm.
we should probably try to figure out how we can work together.
Yeah.
And that is funny how that type of conversation happened. And I think you accelerate maybe a quarter, maybe two
Mhm.
quarters, and the landscape has already dynamically changed, right? Like
It
I would almost tell
absolutely has.
you that within a stack of all the noise that's happening, RevOps is the great unifier when it comes to go to market team.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. We were doing a an original study. We have a book coming out in September called the RevOps Advantage, and it's being distributed by Simon and Schuster. And Skyhorse Publishing reached out to us. They did Frank Slootman's book Amp It Up and Snowflake's book Busting Silos and some of those others. And so they reached out to me and said, hey, we want someone to write the definitive book on revenue operations. Would you be interested? And again, hot second, absolutely. Shout out to Mike for reaching out. But um, what is really interesting about that, when we did some original research to support that book, people already have several AI tools that they're trying to manage.
Mhm.
They already have a stack of, like, even smaller businesses have a tech stack of 13 to 15, right? And in this market right now with efficient growth, there's a mandate among many, many, many organizations to reduce your tech stack by 20%. So what does that mean you have to do? You have to get rid of the fat. You have to cut what's not working. You have to get rid of all of your COVID tools that you bought because you wanted to stay home and now
Yeah.
and now or had to stay home and now we're going back to work more and more. And so I do think you're right. With all of, you've got post COVID, you've got a distributed workforce that kind of works and kind of doesn't. And you've got AI coming into the mix. We are in the middle of just an absolute hot mess right now.
I love that because it's a hot mess, and I know we've talked about this to nauseum. Is the opportunity is so crazy because of the fact that it's such a hot mess, right?
Absolutely right.
Uh,
Who's going to fix the hot mess? Your RevOps people. That's who's going to fix
yeah,
your hot mess.
and that is, and again, poised for success. The wave, if not, is already kind of coming down, and you're riding on top of it. Which is absolutely beautiful. When you think of the landscape, of the hot mess, how do you predict the hot mess transforming and evolving in the next, 24 to 5 years?
I had a really awesome opportunity to work with Simon Chan at First Hand Ventures and MC his AI conference in May. That to me was absolutely fascinating. A few things I learned there. Any AI company that you can think of was there, and they had their leads, and they had their some of their go-to-market leads, a lot of their technical leads, talking about the future of AI. And one thing that was very apparent to me is that the structure of how we're going to be developing AI tools is really being set. If we look at it, the way that the public data is accessed right now is structurally very similar to everyone else, honestly. And now the opportunity really lies within private data. How do we make AI tools work for our own private data in a way that is secure and ethical? How do we make the public data more ethical and regulated? That's a whole other field that's going to be coming down. So, the way that I see the market right now is when it comes to public data, everything's out there. It's just a matter now of how do we use it responsibly and ethically. When it comes to innovation, we're going to see a lot more AI being developed, especially in the private sector for private data. And then we're going to be able to, use what's already being built with those large LLM models and other things. We also are going to see some more robotics happen, I think. I don't think that humans can get away from the idea of creating as close to themselves as possible. I just think it's a
Hmm.
it's a destructive tendency within ourselves, but I think it's going to happen. So I think that we're going to see a lot of changes based on AI, and the only way that that kind of stuff is going to work is if we're going to be able to integrate many, many, many different pieces and parts and departments.
Yeah. I love that 'cause some people saw or forecast this is the death of SaaS if you're
Mhm.
not building any type of AI native mindset, very focused on results, and then the transformative nature of how fast AI technologies are coming out and how that's getting permeated into physical items such as what you mentioned, robotics, to kind of help and deal with the repeatable tasks that
Mhm.
everybody does,
Mhm.
is an interesting take because it is the first frontier of retail for AI and physical AI, right? Is it
Absolutely.
restaurants, XYZ? So
Mhm.
I think we're going to see a lot of different changes, and I completely agree that private sector is the guinea pig. We'll
Mhm,
understand what works, what doesn't
mhm,
work, what
mhm.
the hallucinations might happen, and hopefully it's
Yeah.
not too crazy that would that would occur. When it comes to the statement I made before, right? And death to SaaS is a very clickbait statement, but it's
Mhm,
what do I mean is death to traditional software as a solution,
mhm.
where we even see pricing and business models change from per seat to consumption. The interesting thing here is, how do you see the landscape changing? Do you see the thought process of traditional SaaS businesses getting gobbled up by AI native businesses that are expanding quickly? Or do you see kind of the larger companies create defensibility and moats by eating up the long tail of point solutions that might be a threat to
Well, that's a really, really interesting question and a very, like,
them?
very smart
Loaded
question.
question.
Yes, because you see the battle going on right now, right? You see Salesforce
Mhm.
hanging on, trying to, like, revalidate their platform by inserting agent force into everything, right? And then you see people saying, no, 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 this is the death of SaaS. And we're going to be using data lakes rather than CRMs in order to access our data in a way that is going to be proactive and predictive and accessible. And I think there's going to be a big battle for that. And I think that
Mhm.
Salesforce understands that the battle for the traditional CRM has already been lost, which is why they're going so wholly into agent force and transforming their own business. Kudos to them. We've been their partner for many years, and I think they're brilliant. But um, but I do think when it comes to software as a service, when ChatGPT launched, that was the death knell to SaaS.
Yeah.
It now has to be service as software. You don't go into ChatGPT and say, "Give me an empty shell from which I can check my data." You're going to ChatGPT and Gemini and Grok and all the others and Claude and saying, "Think for me. Do this for me," right? And so that transition is really important. And the thing that I'm excited about with LeadIQ and about your business is all of that hinges on good data. You
Mhm.
can't run AI without good data. You can't run AI without clean data. And that is another reason that revenue operations is so ridiculously important right now, because who's going to clean your data? You can't have AI depend on clean data to clean your data, right? This is something that people are going to have to do as a baseline in order to set that up. I was also the
Yeah.
chief marketing officer of an elite AWS partner called nClouds, and that is one of the hallmarks of AWS is clean data is the prerequisite for AI and for using your AI, for having valuable AI. So anyway, it's an absolute pleasure to be partnered with you guys because of some of those, the important prerequisites of even being able to use it. But I would like to hear your thoughts on that question you asked me. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we're in a pivotal point to understand who's going to win, right? And I think you have both arenas, and it's honestly a safe answer because I don't know, I can't predict the future specifically on it, but I think the platforms will get wider, so more horizontal to be a layer on top of any type of LLM, right? So like
Mhm,
when you used to, I come from Intel, so we think of the hardware stack and then software is
mhm,
built on top of that. And then
mhm,
when you think of the tech stack, you think of, either a data lake, a CRM, and then your point solutions that sit on top of that. And
mhm,
what you're seeing is that every customer or platform, think of your sales platforms like Outreach and Salesloft and even
mhm,
Gong. They're still consistently trying to go wider, but create
mhm,
some specialty associated with what they try to do. But these point solutions are still capturing attention, and they're
mhm,
still capturing the ability to kind of be implemented very quickly. Like
mhm,
every business out there, in my opinion, AI first native point solutions, even the stuff that's coming out of YC today, which I keep a very close tab on, are providing value to people by saying, I specialize, even from the contextualization of your data on X, while platforms are saying, that AI feature I'm going to insert into my business, but it's not going to be the core focus of what I do,
Mhm.
right? So I think as we continue to grow and businesses get more mature, I think tech spend is going to increase,
Mhm.
and full-time employee spend is going to decrease,
Mhm.
which provides a massive more value for people to be like, maybe I'll try the specialized point solutions that can then feed into a lot of these larger platforms to then contextualize that a bit more. And that my take there is the reason is I could probably jimmy an AI solution for everything under the sun using the tools that are out there. Zapier,
Mhm.
N8N, hooking into my Gong calls, and then kind of coding these into MCPs into a lot of these
Mhm.
LLMs, right?
Mhm.
The
Right.
problem is once that breaks, what
Mhm.
happens,
Mhm.
right? And it will, and things are adapting. So you almost would shed off some additional capital to a lot of these point solutions to maintain the validity of a lot of these solutions as you continue to grow, because you actually have less people doing more because of
Mhm.
these tools.
Mhm.
So my 2 cents, and that's where I would put my money on that, is to say that the platforms will try, will do a good general job, but the point solutions would be more advanced and specialized and will actually provide more value. The problem is it would be siloed
Mhm.
and not necessarily contextualized as well as it should be.
Mhm. That makes a lot of sense. I like that. I like that thought. I'm thinking about that
So,
for a
Amy,
second.
I know, I know. I was thinking about it too, and I was like, "Huh, that's interesting." And it's funny because I've been talking to a lot of businesses specifically around that too, and I think time will tell who will win out, but it's also where the money is going to flow, right? Because a
Mhm.
lot of these point solutions don't exist without some sort of capital infusion. I know
Mhm.
it's getting easier to build businesses and it's getting cheaper from a feature set and technology perspective to start businesses, but there is going to be this series B, C scalability issue where
Mhm.
capital will flow. And I think we're in the early stages of a lot of these companies. Once you see a lot of these point solutions maturing and realizing they need capital for scale, we'll understand where the market trends will occur. And I think it
Mhm.
will be a forcing function of capital, and what a lot of maybe the Silicon Valley world where think they'll gain the most value, right?
I love that.
um Amy, I know we talked a lot, but I do appreciate you jumping on the IQ² podcast, blessing us with your presence
Oh,
and your
it was
knowledge.
my pleasure. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
For everybody that's listening, and I always ask this for everybody, is we want to kind of bridge the gap between having conversations with the experts in the field. How can people reach you, Amy? How can they have conversations with you? Because I'm sure people would want to have interactions, understand how you feel about RevOps, or even just take advantage of the Fullcast solution.
Oh, absolutely. If anyone would like to reach out on LinkedIn, my profile is Amy Osmond Cook, and Amy at Fullcast.com is my email, and would love to connect with you there.
All right. Well, thank you, Amy, again. Appreciate everything, and we'll chat soon.
Thank you so much.